Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here today. Today we are going to be talking all about why you absolutely must start a free Facebook group before you launch your first or your next online program. But for those of you that have no idea who I am, my name is Bacher, and I help entrepreneurs start and grow profitable Facebook groups. So I want to ask you a question before we get started. How many of you guys, you already have in your head an idea for, maybe it's for an online course, or maybe it's for a group coaching program, but you haven't launched it into the world because you're feeling a little bit stuck, or you're feeling a little bit unsure, or maybe even a little bit nervous. If that's you, I want you to type in yes into the comments. Okay, so please type in yes if that's you, if you have this little spark of an idea for your next online course or group coaching program, but you're just not really sure what to do next or how to get going. Okay, perfect. I see some me's, some yeses. Wonderful. So here's my goal for this video. Today, after watching this full video and implementing what you learn, I want you to be able to put an offer into your community tomorrow. Okay? Now, it's not going to be a polished or perfect offer, but it's going to be an offer. And hopefully it's going to make you some money, but even if it doesn't make you some money, it's going to give you some powerful information. So I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I would like to first start out by talking about why a free Facebook group is the best way to validate an idea. So when I say validating an idea, you guys have probably heard that phrase a lot when it comes to creating online courses and online programs. And the reason why it's so important to validate your idea first is because you don't want to spend tons of time and energy and resources putting together an online program only to have nobody interested in it, right? You don't want to build your program first. So when people talk about validating an idea, what they mean is putting together an offer and seeing if there's interest, okay? So that's what validating an idea means. Now, the reason why Facebook groups are so important to this process of validating your idea is, number one, they enable you to receive immediate feedback. Okay? So, you can deliver content related to the topic that you want to create a paid offer about. That content can be in the form of, maybe it's a long post. Maybe it's a live, going live inside of your group. Maybe it's offering a lead magnet or anything, right? Any kind of content. So when you put content like that inside of your Facebook group, you get immediate feedback, right? And it's real-time feedback, because if you have this, this engaged community on Facebook, if you have people in your Facebook group and they're talking to each other, you get to see their response to that content in real time. So you get to see the questions that they ask, the follow-up questions that they ask you. You get to see how they go about then trying to help each other. So you really get to uncover a lot of deep, valuable information about how your ideal customers think about your topic, right? Because as we all of us, like we're all, experts in our own various industries, right? And a lot of the time that can be kind of a hindrance because we know so much about our own, areas of expertise that we kind of forget what it's like to not know. And it's really, really important for us to stay connected to our communities, and Facebook groups enable you to get that real-time response, right? So a lot of people ask me, like, what's the difference between a page and a group? I don't get it. Why can't I just do all of this on my page? Because those kinds of discussions just don't happen on your page, right? Like, if you have a Facebook page, chances are you're pushing content out there, and that's great. I do the same thing. You're sharing blog posts, you're sharing live streams. You might be asking a question here or there, but it's not the same as what's going on inside of your Facebook community, inside of your group, right? Because your page is pretty much all about you. It's all about you pushing content out there. Your group is not all about you. It's a community. It's all about your community. And so you get to see people engaging, talking about, discussing, struggling, achieving, dealing with their problems in real time. And that's not going to happen on your Facebook page. Okay? So number one, the reason why Facebook groups are such an amazing tool to validate your idea is because they provide that immediate feedback. Number two, you can deliver it. It's an easy way to get that content out there, to deliver, right? You can say, for example, you could say something like, hey, I'm going to go, do a live stream tomorrow. Which topic should I do? And you can kind of tweak the messaging a little bit. You can say, should I do it about this or that? And you get immediate feedback. And when people do this, they're always surprised by the results. Because a lot of times, again, we think we know what's going on inside the hearts and minds of our ideal customers, but we really don't know. Right? We really don't know. And so we may think, oh, I have a great idea for a Facebook Live. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to put that out there. But then when we do, people don't come. We're like, what? What happened there? That's weird. Well, when you're in the process of developing an online program or a course, you really don't want that to happen, right? You really don't want to have to go through this, all of this creation, spend all of this time, all these resources, only to find out people don't want it, right? And sometimes people don't want it because of a simple, easily preventable mistake that you could have completely avoided if you had, if you had involved your Facebook group in the process and gotten a little bit of that feedback. So number one, it provides immediate feedback. Number two, it's an easy way to deliver quick content. So you don't have to go create this formal blog post and this big fancy lead magnet. It's no, you go into your group, you create a poll, right? Or you go in your group and you write out a mini blog post, no graphics or anything like that, just text, and you put that into your group and see how people respond, right? The other thing is that when you're watching these responses, it allows you to tweak them, to make small tweaks to your messaging, to the messaging and positioning of the offer before you even make it, right? Because you may make an offer that says, I don't know, maybe it's maybe you want to make a course about vegan meal planning or something. I don't even know. And so you're oh, breakfast, everybody wants to know how to make a vegan breakfast. That's the most important meal of the day. This is what people need. I know what people need, and I'm going to go do that. So you post something about that inside your Facebook group, and then everyone's I don't really eat breakfast, or actually what I really want is how to make vegan family dinners that the rest of my family actually likes, because my other family members are not vegan, and that's my real struggle pain point. That's something that I'm really having a hard time with in my life. And then other people will come in and they'll be yeah, me too. My husband doesn't understand why I want to be a vegan, or oh, my kids are so picky. You're starting to gather information. and you're starting to, and then like, can you imagine, what if you had spent all this time and money on developing this big old giant program for vegan breakfast, right? When all that, and you launch it, nobody buys it, that could have been completely avoided with a simple post inside of your Facebook group, right? And so that's how you can you can tweak your messaging. You can be like, oh, like, wait a minute, people are interested in this. Okay. I'm like, right? Like you have your notebook, you're taking notes. You're like, oh, and they care about this and that and this. So that's all valuable information that you can, so that you're creating a product that people want, right? So I talked a little bit about this in an email. I can't remember if I sent it yesterday or the day before, but it's this idea of, creating products that people actually want. So a lot of us we fall in love with this idea of a perfect product. If you have an idea for a perfect product in your head right now, I want you to type yes, right? Because we're creative people. We're passionate people. We fall in love with our own ideas and we're like, oh my gosh, yes, I have this great idea inside of my head. It's amazing. This is what people need. This will make the biggest impact. I can't wait to do this product. Well, that's kind of a problem because if you've already fallen in love with your product, like, how do you even know if someone wants it? Like, you think people should care about that. But this whole like being in business thing isn't about what you want to do. It's about what your customers want and how you can serve your customers. And a lot of times we kind of latch onto this idea of the product that we want to create. And this is what people need. And we can't let go of it. And it's just a simple matter of going inside of your group, putting it out there and seeing what people say about it, right? Seeing what people say. Christy says, so true. I'm in the validating stage now. It totally shifted my head of what product to create. Exactly. This kind of stuff happens all the time. And the reason why Christy is going to be so successful is because she's making those tweaks and positioning in advance. She's listening to her audience. She's not being like, oh no, nobody wants it. It's like, okay, if nobody wants it, that's great to know. That's valuable information. That means you don't create that. You ask them what they do want, and then you go and create that, right? So let's go on to, I always start yelling, and then my video editor, when she sees these later, she's like, you need to stop yelling because it creates feedback on your microphone, so I need to simmer down. That's hard for me to do. Okay. So we just covered why a free Facebook group is the best way to validate your idea, right? So you guys should all have an understanding of that. Provides immediate feedback. You're able to tweak the messaging and positioning of your offer based on that feedback before you even create the program, right? Okay. So number 2, now I'm going to walk you through, and I want you to get a pencil or a paper or whatever it is, and it says, because the thing that we're going to cover right now is 3 steps to creating a brand new program. Okay. These are the 3 steps. This could be the first program that you've ever created, right? Like maybe it's a group coaching program. Maybe it's an online course, whatever. Could be the first one. Maybe it's the next one. Okay. Whatever it is, we're going to walk through that. So the very first thing that you need to do is start your group. If you don't have a Facebook group already, that is the number one thing that you need to do. Do not even think about launching a group coaching program, an online course, a digital product, anything without creating that engaged community first, because you can't do it, right? Otherwise, you're going to be making up ideas that you think people want in your own head. Now, I get emails all the time from people telling me, Caitlin, I would love to enroll in your program, but I'm worried it's not right for me because I don't have an online course to sell yet, or because I don't really know what my coaching packages are going to be like yet. So that's actually a good thing, right? You don't want to have that stuff first. If you have all of that stuff figured out first, once you start a Facebook group, you're probably going to learn that you need to tweak some of those offers, right? So you don't need that. Step one is creating your community. You cannot skip this step. This is the most important thing. You're gathering a group of people, right? You're gathering a group of people that are interested in a specific topic, a topic that you are skilled to help them with. This is a pool of people that you're going to continually get revenue from. Over and over and over, you're going to create offers and sell to them. Okay? This community is priceless. This is the missing piece that a lot of people, have, because instead they're like, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make this thing. Then I'll put up, I'm going to make a blog post, make a lead magnet about it. Then I'll drive traffic to it. I'll build a list. I'll see the feedback, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not the same thing. There is nothing that can replace seeing with your own eyes, your community talk to each other in real time. That kind of information, that kind of feedback is 100% priceless, right? Companies spend millions of dollars on this, right? They'll pull together a focus group and they ask the focus group questions, and they're behind that wall where it looks like a mirror, but it's really a glass, and they can see you because they want to see how you're talking about their product in real life. Your Facebook group does that for you when set up correctly, okay? So step one, to create your next brand new or your next online program, course, whatever it is. Step number one is to start a group. Step number two is to figure out what they're struggling with. Now, again, a lot of people like to skip this step, and you can't do it. You can't do it anymore. Maybe when online courses, when they were a brand new thing out there, maybe you could be lazy and get away with doing stuff like that. You can't do that anymore, guys. This market is reaching saturation, okay? So it's important. You have to now, in order to succeed, you have to have these really specific niche offerings that speak to a certain group of people, okay? That's what you need in order to stand out. So after you start your group and you grow it and you get people talking and you start to build that know, like, and trust factor with them, then you're able to go inside of your group and you're able to see what they are struggling with, right? There's a lot of easy ways to do this. You can go in, you can use the little search bar on your Facebook group, for example. And let's say that you are thinking about, doing a course on, let's go back to the vegan example. Let's say you want to do a course on creating vegan breakfasts or something like that. You can go inside of your little group and then you would type in the keyword breakfast. Now, if you type in that keyword and you search it and there are no results, nobody cares about it. So that's the easiest way to figure out if people are actually struggling with it, if it's a pain point. If it doesn't even show up in the search results of your own group, that means that people are not interested in it. Now, I know that some of you are watching, you're like, but wait, I don't have that. I don't have a Facebook group, or I do have a Facebook group, but people aren't talking yet. So how am I supposed to figure out what they're struggling with? Well, you can't skip that step. So if that's a problem for you, you need to fix that problem first. Because once you fix that problem, you're going to have an endless amount of opportunities to make money, but you can't do that unless you have that engaged community first, right? It's kind of it's like people want to, it's like skipping putting the cart before the horse, right? Or it's like skipping the most crucial step that you need before you actually get to the part where you make money. People want to jump right to the making money spot, and it doesn't work, and their businesses are failing, and nobody's buying their courses, nobody's enrolling in their programs, and they get frustrated and they say, why aren't these programs working? How come I bought a course about how to create courses and how to launch a course, how to this and that and the other. Why isn't this working? And then they're like, online courses are horrible. The marketing industry is so unhelpful, blah, blah, blah. But it's whoa. Okay. First of all, did you do the pre-work? Did you build a community? Did you gather a group of people who are actually interested in what it is that you have to sell? This is all about playing the long game. We need to stop thinking of this as a quick win, right? As a $20,000 in 3 days kind of launch thing. Like, no, that's not how you build a business. Some freak thing may happen like that to some people, but that's not really sustainable. You've got to build that community first. You've got to give value to your community. You've got to build up trust, and you've got to figure out what they're struggling with. You can't skip that step. So the third thing you're going to do after you start your group, you figure out what they're struggling with. The third thing you're going to do is you're going to offer a product to solve it. I want you to listen to that clearly. Offer a product to solve it. I did not say create a product to solve it, because you're not going to create anything until you have exchanged money to prove that you actually have a valid idea, right? So when I say offer a product to solve it, that does not mean you need to go make a fancy sales page. It does not mean you need to go create a 4-part video series. It does not mean you need to start creating a whole new Facebook ads campaign or anything like that. What it means is you need to go inside of your group and you need to put an offer out there. It can be via live stream, it can be via text, but it needs to include a link to somewhere where people can give you money to some kind of a cart, whether it's PayPal or it's Samcart or it's whatever it is. Because once you do that, then you're able to really understand, oh, people actually want this. Now, a lot of people won't do that. A lot of people won't do that because they're scared, they're nervous that people will reject their offer, that nobody will buy. Well, here's the thing. Nobody's going to know if nobody buys, first of all, right? So if you put an offer out there and nobody buys it, nobody's going to know unless you tell them, right? Nobody's going to know. So it's really important that you go through the process of putting out an offer, right? Like tomorrow. Go through your Facebook groups today. If you already have people talking inside of your Facebook groups, it's going to be easy. Just go through, look through, what are people struggling with? Tomorrow, put an offer in your Facebook group. Put a link to a place where people can give you money and see who signs up for it. Because here's the thing. We get so caught up in this idea of this perfect, beautiful launch, right? Where it's, I launched my first program and I made $1,002,000 or whatever it is, right? We fall in love with this idea and we have this idea in our head that all of those fancy things is what makes the offer convert. And that is not true. Okay? That's just not true. You don't need a fancy sales page for this offer. All you're doing is validating it. You're just seeing if people are willing to pay money for it. So don't get caught up in all of that other stuff. Now, the easiest way for you to actually deliver this online program is not to go pay for a membership portal and upload all of these fancy worksheets and workbooks and videos and all of this stuff. Why? Because that takes time. And again, we're not creating the product before we sell it. Okay, you're going in your Facebook group, you're looking at what people are worried about, are concerned with, are struggling with, you're putting an offer out there, you're saying, hey, I can help with blah, 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 right? Going through the selling thing, putting a link so people can buy. And then when it's time to deliver your program, I'm going to share with you, this is so simple, it's completely fail-proof, and it's going to completely take down all of those objections that you guys have right now in your head that are holding you back from creating a program because you're like, I don't know about the tech, I don't know about this, but I don't have a graphic designer. How do I find someone to make this for me? Like whatever, okay? Here's what you do. You start a new Facebook group that's only for the people that paid for your online course or your online group coaching program. You start a new Facebook group for them, and you build out the program in real time. Okay? So it's kind of like, so you're in that Facebook group with them and you're delivering the value through Facebook live streams right into your group. You do not need a fancy membership portal yet, right? You don't need to invest tons of money in all of this fancy tech and all of this stuff before you even know if people are willing to buy it. Now, when you're putting this offer out there, of course, you need to explain exactly what it is that people are going to sign up for, right? You can say, hey, I'm doing a pilot session of this program, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. Join me for the next 30 days inside of this Facebook group. Like, here's what you're going to get, right? I'm going to be doing live streams. It's going to be like, we're going to build it out. And then at the end, as a bonus, if you provide feedback, I'm going to give you the finished product, the finished course, which will probably be ready like in a month or two for free. If you go through the program and you give me feedback, right? Now, there's no tech to that. And it's incredibly valuable and helpful because essentially it's like 30 days of group coaching. So you're in there, obviously before you start this, you want to have kind of like a basic outline of what it is that you want to go through. But that outline is going to change once you get to know the needs of your students. This is going to enable you to create better products that are tailor-made for people who are willing to pay for them. Right? Because again, you're not doing this for free. There's an exchange of money. And that exchange of money needs to happen in order to prove that your idea is valid. So that's it, right? So let's go to why your next launch is going to be even bigger. So what you've done so far is you've gone into your Facebook group, you've figured out what people are struggling with, you've put together an offer, right? Not a fancy sales page, anything like that. You put together an offer, you've posted it in your Facebook group, you've given a link for people to buy whatever cart or whatever, thing that you use to process payments. You put that in so people can buy. And then you deliver the program inside of a Facebook group. It's just you and them, and you're giving live streams, right? You're developing the program in real time. Now, your next launch is going to be even bigger because you have results to show that your program actually works, right? It's incredibly, people get so caught up in this idea of like a big launch for a brand new product. But in reality, if you haven't done that program before, you don't have testimonials to show that it actually works, right? Like if you don't have those testimonials, like you're not going to have a giant launch. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so what this does is it enables you to gather testimonials, right? And these are going to be some of the best testimonials that you've ever had because you're going to be in there in the group with them, helping them along. It's going to be very hands-on. Since your first launch is going to be small, there's not going to be a lot of people in there. So you're going to have plenty of time to really devote to them, right? They will have paid you money. So that means they will have put skin in the game. So they're ready to, actually take action and implement what you're teaching them. And the other thing that's going to happen is that after you make this offer, you can ask people, those people that didn't buy, why they didn't buy. Okay? So the reason why you want to ask this is because that information that they're telling you is incredibly valuable. When you ask them, why didn't you buy, that information you're going to use in order to make your offer for the next launch, because remember, we're playing the long game, right? So when you launch your product again, like a month later or 2 months later or 3 months later, or however much time that you need, you're going to have all of this information, right? Someone might say, well, someone might say, well, I didn't really think this was me because I don't like basketball or whatever it is, right? Like whatever some reason. And maybe your course is about how to play basketball. So that's actually a valid reason, right? You're like, okay, that totally makes sense. Like if you don't like basketball, I'm really glad you did not enroll in this course on how to play basketball. That totally makes sense, right? But what if for your course or your program on how to teach, or how to play basketball, what if someone had a different reason they didn't enroll? What if someone said, well, it seemed like this course took a lot of time, and I really only have about 2 to 3 hours a week to devote to practicing basketball, so I don't think this is a good fit. Now, what if your course can actually be completed in 2 to 3 hours a week? Well, that's valuable information for you, because then when you go to launch your product again, you can make sure to emphasize that, right? You can say, hey, like for those of you that are strapped for time, I just want you to know that the expected, time investment into this program is about 2 to 3 hours a week. So you've just eliminated an objection that someone has had about investing in your product or program. And that's not possible unless you put that first offer out there. It's just about, like, I kind of think about it as like giving birth, like just like, you've got to birth that offer. You've got to figure out like it's like, how like before, for those of you that are parents, before you have kids, you can read all kinds of books, right? Like we're on Amazon, we buy all the books. We take special classes on how to do this with your baby and that, and this is how I'm going to parent, and this is that, and whatever. But you don't know until your baby is actually out there in your arms, and it's a real person that you have to work with, right? So all of this pre-training that people go through on like how to build a course and how to do this and that. It's like, have you put an offer out there yet? Do you know why people don't want to buy yet? Because if you don't, all of that, it's just like, what is the point? It's just wasting time, right? And what happens is in your head, you start to continue to build it up and build it up and build it up into this big thing. Whereas like other people who just go out, put an offer, exchange money, figure out what they're doing, like they're taking action and they're progressing. And then if they want to go buy, a course about creating courses or whatever it is, like that's awesome. That's great. But we get stuck in this cycle of like learning, and we're just consuming and consuming and consuming instead of taking action. And so, your next, I really, really want to shift your thinking from this first launch as being this like a great, amazing, big, fancy launch. Okay. Let's just put that aside, because that level of expectation makes the whole endeavor of releasing a new program or product, it makes it seem a lot scarier because there's a lot of pressure, right? But if we just kind of are like, hey, let's approach this with from the viewpoint of like experimenting and just figuring out, like, is this going to work? Okay, because it's valuable feedback if it doesn't work, and it's valuable feedback if it does work, right? Because we're constantly tweaking and improving. So I want to take some questions. In case you missed, you definitely want to go back and watch the replay in case you missed the first part of this video, because it's really important that you watch the full thing from start to finish. But let's open it up to some questions. For those of you, first of all, how do you guys feel about putting an offer in your Facebook group tomorrow? Like, how do you feel about that? What comes up for you when you think about actually doing that? Like, is it fear? Is it excitement? Is it, feeling a little bit unsure? whatever it is, like, let's talk about it so that we can kind of like get through that, right? So Kaylee says that she really likes the idea of experimenting. Yeah, so do I. It takes so much pressure off. Because this is we're supposed to enjoy this, right? And our customers and our prospects, the members inside of our group, they can pick up on that anxiety. So if we're feeling like, ooh, like there's so much pressure to make this launch a big success and like they can feel that, right? And so if we more approach it like, hey, I've noticed that you guys have been struggling with this. Like, here's an offer that I put together. There's a link right here if you guys would like to join me for the next 30 days inside a paid Facebook group. I'll be working with you on, how to overcome that problem. And then you put a link and then you see who buys. And if nobody buys, it's not a failure because you've just collected information, right? You can start to look through, you can even go through and reach out to specific people in your Facebook group. Like people, like you might put an offer like that out there and there will be people that you think are a perfect fit, right? A perfect fit for this program, but they didn't buy. So there's nothing wrong with contacting them via Messenger, and just saying like, and it's not a sales pitch. You're not trying to convince them to buy at all, but you're just collecting information. You're like, hey, I was just curious. So as you know, I just had this launch and I was just curious as to why you felt like that wasn't a good fit for you, right? And of course, as we all know, anyone that has asked this question before, right? We all know that their first response is money. And their first response is, well, like I just didn't, I just didn't have money right now or, whatever. But that's 99% of the time, that's not the reason why they didn't buy, right? The reason why they didn't buy was because they felt like that offer was not right for them, that it wasn't worth the money because it wasn't right for them. If it was an offer that was right for them, they would have put money on the table for it, right? So in this case, you kind of have to disconnect yourself from your ego a little bit, right? And you need to be open to the fact that maybe you didn't effectively communicate the value of this offer. And that's okay. Because once you connect with this person and you fully understand why they did not buy, then you're able to tweak your messaging, your positioning, all of that for the next launch, right? Like I said, when I first launched this Facebook group program last year, right? This is a $1 million course, right? So like I think in October is when we're going to cross the $1 million mark and in the total revenue that I generated from this program. Now, when I first launched this program, it broke even. And some of you guys have heard this story before. It broke even. I invested $20,000 into this program when I first launched it last year, and I made $20,000. Okay? Now, that was considered a failure for me. I was really upset about it, and I didn't see it coming at all, right? I didn't see it coming. But what I was able to do, since I had this, this Facebook community, I was able to reach out to people and say, hey, let me ask you a question. I got people on the phone. I Skyped with them. I messaged them. I emailed them. And I was able to understand why the initial offer wasn't connecting with people, right? And so then I was able to go in, tweak my messaging. I did not do any list building. I had 0 Facebook ads, right? Just 2 months later, I was able to relaunch it, and then it made $60,000, right? That's 2 months later, $60,000, this time with no ads. So that first time I probably spent like $10,000 on ads or something crazy, right? But the second time I didn't. So like my list was the exact same size. The only difference was that I had figured out the correct positioning for it, right? And since then, The program has gotten even better because I've been able to connect with students and work with them as they've gone through the program. And, like a month or two ago, we made some really big improvements to the program, pretty much redid the entire thing in order to make it more valuable, because it's all based on student feedback, right? So I would love to see you guys do this. I would love to have you, put an offer out there. And here's where you need to take like an honest kind of assessment, okay? If you have just created a Facebook group, and if nobody is talking in there, you need to start there, right? If you don't even have a Facebook group, you need to start there, okay? You need to have a Facebook group. You need to make sure there's engagement happening. You need to make sure that you've built up that know, like, and trust factor. You need to do that before you make an offer, because you can't make an offer unless you know what it is that your ideal customers are actually struggling with. So you can't, because remember, we're creating offers for them. We're not creating offers that we want to make. We want to create offers that people are willing to pay for, right? Okay. So let's see. So Yvonne says, my group is just too new. I posted a question to the group about a particular challenge they may be having. I'll be watching the responses first. Yes. Okay. So Yvonne, that's totally important, right? She's not skipping the steps, because what happens is when people skip steps, when they're like, oh, I'm going to create my dream course first, or my dream coaching package, or my dream website, or like whatever it is. I'm going to do that first before I launch my Facebook group. No, it does not work that way. The Facebook group has to come first, and you need to put in the effort to really give value to your community first, right? That's how you stand out. That's how you make that real intense connection. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll through to see if someone has a question. Okay, yeah. So True says, I always get so caught up in the sales page and the copywriting. And that is 100% true. That happens to everyone, right? We get caught up in all of these like little tiny details, when in reality, like the very first program. So when I started my business, 2015, the very first program that I released, it was literally, I just had like a regular plain like Squarespace blog that I had put together. Like there weren't even any graphics on it. It was just really plain. And my sales page was just a page on my blog, right? There were zero graphics. It was just, some sales copy and a link to PayPal. Like I didn't even have like a cart. I didn't even know what that was. Like I just had PayPal. So I put a button to PayPal and I was like, this is where you can buy it, right? And then I delivered the program afterwards. So and by doing that, then I was able to figure out why didn't people buy, right? Blah, 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 all that stuff. But my point is, we need to stop getting caught up in all of these little tiny things that are stopping us from taking action, right? Like fancy email sequences, fancy this, fancy that. Like, no, just put an offer out there. Like, who cares if you have like whatever membership portal or whatever it is for your program? Like, don't worry about that yet. First, see if anyone wants to buy anything, right? Like, I mean, that's it. Like, I've been in Facebook groups and I've seen people launch products and programs from a simple post. All they do is they go in, they make a post inside of their group. It's just like, here's the copy, here's a link to buy. That's it. Like, when you do something like that, you have no excuse not to take action, right? It eliminates all the obstacles that are standing in your way. Like, you don't have a graphic designer, you don't know this, you don't know that. Like, no, all of that is just extra stuff. The very first thing you want to do is build a group, figure out what people want, create an offer, and then build the product with them, right? And it's not a stressful situation, because in the offer, you're explaining what it is. You're like, hey, I want you to join me in a Facebook group for the next 30 days. Here's what we're going to be going through, right? So it's not like nobody's going to feel like, what? Like, well, where's my fancy membership portal or like whatever. You can just explain like, hey, this is a beta launch. This is my pilot session, like whatever it is that you want to call it. But you can't do that until you have your community first. And it does not have to be a community full of thousands of people. It just has to be the right people. And you just have to make sure that they're talking to each other and engaged, right? That can happen with 100 people. That can happen with 50 people. That can happen with 10,000 people. It doesn't matter, right? But the point is that they should be talking to each other. So I want to ask people that are watching right now, like, how many of you are going to try this? How many of you are going to go tomorrow inside of your Facebook group and put out an offer? How many people, like, and not like a fancy sales page, not linked to a sales page, just linked to a buy button where they can buy or not. How many people are willing to go try that, right? I'm really curious to know if anyone is able to do it. And like some people are saying, you know, they're afraid their group might be too small. They're afraid nobody will buy it. But just remember, guys, when you make that offer, if nobody buys, nobody is going to know. Like, unless you're like, hey, I want to make a big announcement. Nobody bought that thing that I was selling. Like, unless you do that, nobody's going to know. They're not going to know. So it's just about you going through, taking that first initial step so you can figure out why people didn't buy, right? It's almost like, this is going to sound kind of weird, but like it's almost a good thing if it doesn't work out the first time, right? Because if it works out the first time, then you're like you're not going to learn anything. It'll work out that first time and then you might try it a second time and maybe it won't work and you're like, what am I missing now? But if it doesn't work that first time, it just gives you information that you can take action on quicker, right? You can tweak the offer. Maybe you can make it again 2 weeks later, right? Like we have in our heads, we just build up so much resistance. Like, well, I can only launch every 6 months, or well, once a year I'm doing. It's like, no. Like, if you're telling me that you don't know how to make money from your Facebook group, I want to be able to go in your group and see a bajillion offers that you made that people have refused. Because what happens is that people come to me and they say, I'm having a hard time making money in your group. I go in their group, they have not made a single offer. I'm like, well, of course you're not making money. You haven't offered anything. Like, where is the offer? They're like, well, I wasn't sure. Like, I'm trying to work on my sales page. I'm trying to do, create like an offer. I don't know if I should be on Teachable or Thinkific or like whatever. All this, I'm just like, okay. Step 1, create an offer. Don't create a product. Create an offer. Okay. And it doesn't have to be a big fancy thing. So I want to see if anyone's going to do this. I'm going to scroll back down and see. Christy said she's going to do it. And Anita said she's going to give it a try too. That's awesome. Yes. So I'm super excited about this. She says, oh yeah, Christy says, and P.S. everyone, I've gone through Caitlin's Fab Facebook Groups course and it's fantastic. If you like this live stream, you're going to flip for her course. Oh, thank you, Christy. Yeah, so step 1, open a Facebook group, right? Anita says, should I open a Facebook group first? Yes, do that. Okay. That is the very first thing that you need to do. That you're never going to go wrong by pouring love and attention and value into your community. You're never going to regret that. Creating a course, launching it to crickets, you might regret that. Especially if you spent a lot of time and other resources into it. Okay. But you can never go wrong with starting a Facebook group first. That is the very, very first step. So that's it. That's all I want to say. Let's see. Okay, Jennifer says, really helpful to remember this doesn't have to be a huge deal. Yes, let's not make it a huge deal. Please, please, let's not make it a huge deal. Because we put so much pressure on ourselves, right? And then we see results that other people are having. And then we start to compare ourselves, right? And we're like, oh, well, that person got like this result. Like, so if I don't get this result, that means that I'm just like doomed for failure. No, we're not doing that, right? You can't we all know not to get caught up in comparing, but it happens to all of us. And that's totally fine if it does happen. It's just, you just have to be aware of when it's happening so that then you can course correct, right? Because it's going to happen, right? There's not anyone out there that's like, well, I used to compare myself to others and now I never do. It's like, okay, you're full of BS. Like, because it happens to everyone. It's just a matter of being able to course correct when it happens, being self-aware. So, absolutely, Jennifer, we need to take away this idea of like putting so much pressure on ourselves to make this like the best thing ever, the best launch, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, just get it out there so you can figure out, let's assume that it's that a very small amount of people are going to buy. Let's assume that so that we have this growth mindset, right? So that you start to be like, yeah, so I'm going to launch something, I probably not like maybe 10 people will buy, maybe 5 people will buy, maybe 50 people will buy, right? Like depending on the size of your audience. And then when you do that, then you're able to be like, well, I'm doing this. I'm going through the steps. I'm going to put the offer out there. I'm going to, I'm going to then take them into the group, serve them, walk them through like whatever it is that they need to learn. And then I'll be able to collect information as to why people didn't buy. And then I'm going to tweak and relaunch 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, however much time you need. Right. So that's the other thing is don't build it up to this. On your first product launch, don't say, I'm only opening the doors for one day only. In 2017, it's now or never. Like, don't build it up to this big thing like that, because what if it doesn't make any money? Like, you've got to be able to like give, to tweak it and then make an offer, right? Because if we're in business, we need to be making money. And so if you're kind of like, you're preventing your own success by doing these big things where you're like, this is your only chance to buy. I won't open the doors for 24 months. It's like, well, what are you supposed to do over the 24 months? Right? Let's see. Someone says, okay, so here's the thing, Wendy. So Wendy says, if only one person signs up, the second paying group won't work, will it? Well, here's my feeling on this. If someone, now this all depends on the size of your audience, okay? So for example, if you have an email list of 100,000 people, and if one person signs up for your beta offer, like it might just be better to refund that person and to understand that maybe this wasn't a good idea for an offer. Like, I'm going to try something else, right? But if you have a small audience, if you're just getting started, if you have a handful of people that sign up, give that handful of people the best experience of their lives, right? Go all in with them, serve them at the highest level so that they can get results. And like, you're not going to go wrong with that. There's nothing bad that will happen as a result of that. It's just, it's not realistic to be like, well, and I have no idea like what your specific information is, but like to say, I have 100 people on my email list and only 10 people bought. So I'm just not, I'm just going to give a refund and I'm just not going to do it because only 10 people bought. It's like, okay, well, you only had 100 people on your email list and you only had 20 people in your group and 10 people bought. So, you need to kind of take that into account as well, because you don't, if you're serving 10 people and you're serving them at the highest level and you're getting amazing results for them, and you also understand and know why other people in your community didn't buy, your next launch is going to be amazing, right? And with each launch, you can continue to add something extra, right? Maybe in the next launch, maybe you're going to add a webinar to it. Maybe in the launch after that, you're going to do a challenge and a webinar. Maybe in the launch after that, you'll do something else, right? But you don't have to create this full thing from scratch. It's like gradually add on to it. Otherwise, you're going to burn out and feel disappointed and be upset. Yes, Yvonne, absolutely. Ivana's full of good comments today, by the way. She says, and the good thing is that even if only 3 people buy, you can learn from their questions and make improvements, relaunch an improved version, get amazing testimonials. Exactly, right? It's actually a good thing if you have a small group that you're working with first, because you can give them more attention. And you can also figure out, like, you're creating a product in real time. So it's for real people, right? Like, so I used to be, a teacher. So I taught elementary school for 8 years, and I did social media on the side. That was me before I did my social media business. I taught for 8 years, and every year, you can always spot the newbie teachers because they come in, and this was me, like, also when I was a newbie. Like, I came in, I had this, like, all of these, like I bought all these fancy supplies for my classroom, and I made this, like, year-long lesson plan of, like, all of these amazing units. Like, oh, we're gonna explore math and literacy, like, with the planet Saturn in the month of March or whatever. Like, I don't even know. All these, like, amazing neat units. But then guess what happens? First day of school, you get to know your students, and you're like, this is not going to work. This is actually not going to work at all. My plan is garbage, right? And that's the mark of a really good teacher. You can always tell an amazing teacher because they're able to pivot, and they're able to listen to the needs of their students and respond to their students. And that's what we need to do with our clients and our students that enroll in our programs. We need to be listening to them and to be open to tweaking things as we move along, especially when you're doing that, like, that beta or that pilot launch at the very beginning. Okay. Yes, that's right. Christy says, and think about all the amazing takeaways you'll have from leading a tiny group of people through your pilot course. You'll end up with tailored goodies to tweak and turn into collateral items for your bigger course. Literally no bad things about doing a launch this way. Yes, literally none. Hey, hi Dee. That's my project manager. Okay. All right. So I am, this was really great. It's been an hour, and I have a meeting with my project manager next. So I actually gotta go. It starts in 3 minutes. Lost track of time. So, I thank you so much for joining me for this live call. If you missed the first part, please make sure that you go back, and that you watch the first part of this video. Because if you're coming in at the end, it's not really going to make sense. That's it. No, Nicole says, could it be priced too high? No. Like, I'm 100% sure. If anything, your offers are not priced high enough. That's usually what happens. Okay, that's it. All right, bye guys.